introduction of myself, and we'll perform like a quick activity. I'll define what a statement of purpose is. I'll give quick key elements of what it takes to write a winning statement of purpose. And when I can figure out how to do this, okay. And I'll say more about how to write, draft, and revise your statement. I've asked a few of my friends who are on the current admissions committee at Stanford, Harvard, University of Michigan, and UC Berkeley to provide me with common pitfalls, and they've very magnanimously decided to. So I took notes of that, and I would be sharing that with you as well. We'll do a wrap-up activity. I'll share some resources, and yeah, and then you can ask your questions. So Maria did a fantastic job already, but I do hold a Bachelor's of Arts in Linguistics, a double major master's in Linguistics and teaching English to speakers of other languages from the Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. I have a dual degree. The first one is a Master's of Arts in Educational Studies and a graduate certificate in Learning Experience Design from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. And now I'm a doctoral student in educational studies, where I specialize in language, culture, and justice in education at the University of Michigan. I want to start by saying, please breathe. You're already capable. You're already deserving. Your experiences are already enough. And what we need to do is help you craft that into a statement that best fits your, your mostly desired school. So very quickly, don't know what's happening with my slides, but very quickly, I want you to reflect in one sentence and to describe in the chat, if you can, what excites you the most about your dream graduate program. So for me, I've always wanted to either attend Stanford, Harvard, or the University of Michigan because of the ranking of these schools, especially in the field of educational linguistics. So please, it could be funding, it could be the fact that you want to leave the country, it could be whatever. But I invite you to reflect and describe what excites you the most about your dream graduate program. It will take about 2 to 3 minutes for you to do that. So there are some comments in the chat already. Maria says the ranking, that's very valid. That was one of my reasons. Halimat says the city where the school is located, that's really important. Ramat says the University of Sussex because of their ranking in the social development sector. And Basil says to have a better learning curve in line with this 21st century. That's really important. And then we have, oh, one just came in, the experience and learning. All these are very valid. Thank you so much for sharing. So I like to think about the statement of purpose. I don't know if anyone has seen King of Boys, but I like to think about statement of purpose as your own personal movie trailer. Like, what is it about you that's so interesting? So the statement is a personal essay that outlines your academic and professional background, the reasons for pursuing graduate study, your research or career goals, and why you are a good fit for the program you're applying to. So for my getting into the doctorate program that I just started, I talked to my advisor about coming to speak here, and she really emphasized to me that there were over 250 people who applied to the program, and we are just 8 in my current cohort. So yeah, you're going to be competing amongst a wide number of people, anything from 50 to 250 for prestigious PhD programs, and for masters, sometimes even more than that. So this is your narrative. This is your chance to stand out from that vast number. Like I said, your personal movie trailer. Think about what's the thing that's so interesting to you. And if you're apprehensive, we're going to talk more about that. The first part is to introduce yourself. And when I say introduce yourself, I don't mean say my name is Oluwaseun Oyindamola Ogunleye. There will be chances for you in the application process to put your name and your first name and your gender and all of that. The statement is not the place for that. The statement is the place to take a hook. What's that one thing about you? What's that one experience? What's that memory that is peculiar to you? And you have to summarize your undergraduate and previous graduate career aspirations, or what you've done in the past. If you've done any research, if you've done any community-based work, that's the space to say, hey, I've done work and I want to expatiate on the work I've done. So take me and put me your cohort. And then you have to discuss the relevance of your recent and current activities. So not just saying I went to the University of Michigan or I went to University of Ilorin, right? It's saying what did I learn from the University of Ilorin that's relevant to the University of Michigan? What did I learn from the University of Ilorin that's relevant for a dual masters at the Southern Illinois University? What can I add to the learning community? And then there would be chance and like multiple opportunities throughout the document to elaborate on your interests. So there are some key elements of a winning statement of purpose across the board. The first thing is in your very first paragraph, you have to set the stage. So I have provided the statement of purpose that got me into Harvard, that got me into the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, got me to the University of Michigan and the University of Arizona, earned me an interview at the Stanford Graduate School of Education and the University of California, Berkeley. So these are stems of my statement of purpose that I can share with you with Careergrill if you want to read the entire thing. But the first thing I did, this was the first paragraph of my statement. I said, one poignant memory that crystallizes the shortcomings of schooling, particularly as it relates to increasing access for non-native English-speaking students, is working with a bilingual Spanish immigrant diagnosed with ADHD. His teachers labeled him a disruptor, a judgment that shattered his educational aspirations. What worked? I started with a personal anecdote. The strategy going in was to open with a specific and relatable story. And the intended impact is to engage the reader emotionally and to set a personal tone. Because this person doesn't know you. Fine, you may know some people in the school if you are acclimatized with the area, but they don't know who you are. They don't, in many cases, they may not even know what you look like. Well, one might make an argument that your name might give it away that you are from Nigeria, but they still don't know you. So it's good to immediately connect with them emotionally, which most people wouldn't be doing. And I've also narrowed it down to focus on a target group. So my strategy there was I wanted to address the challenges faced by non-native English-speaking students, and that just shows an establishment of my commitment to educational equity. And then in that one paragraph, I also highlighted a very clear conflict, right? There are systemic issues that are already showing up when we talk about a student who is an immigrant who is diagnosed with ADHD and his teachers already labeled him a disruptor. What happens there? Is it because of his immigrant identity or because of his linguistic incapabilities? Like, what are the things that contribute? to this labeling. And in that one paragraph, I've also demonstrated a critical reflection on education, the things that have led me and like the things that drive me into being able to make this observation. My middle paragraph was to deepen the narrative. So I've introduced, the student, and I moved into talking about the things I did. So I said I connected with the student outside regular school hours, exploring his perspective on disability and co-constructing an understanding of his identity and experiences. As a result, I introduced a culturally relevant teaching approach, leading to significant academic progress. What worked there? It was very action oriented. You want to get into a doctoral program, you want to get into a master's program or a professional program like an MBA, or you want to be a Juris Doctor, you want to earn a law degree. Are you able to take the things you're learning in theory and apply them in the real world? Are you a professional? So that was what I tried to demonstrate there. And the strategy was to describe proactive engagement with the student, and the impact shows initiative and dedication. So as I'm showing you what the key elements of a winning statement of purpose is, I want you to, as you're writing yours or developing yours or ideating yours, continue to think about why are you writing this sentence? Why is this sentence important? What are the strategies that you are putting in play, and what impact do you want it to have on the person who's going to be reading your statement? People that are reading your statements are people, and they're interested in you, and they're excited to learn more about you. Another thing I displayed here is, again, knowledge in the field, a culturally relevant approach. The strategy was to introduce specific teaching methods that I know that people use in my field. I think that the impact is that it illustrates practical applications to my beliefs, and I showed an evidence of success, that it's not just that I can identify a problem and not just that I can work on a problem or take action, but that I can also succeed. And it validates my growing effectiveness as an educator. So of course, you also have to leave space for them to know that there is more work to be done. You don't know everything, but there are opportunities for that, and you've done the work. Then I also brought in my personal journey. Like I said earlier, just breathe. You already have everything you need within you, everything you need to succeed. Your stories are valid. So I brought in my personal journey and connecting it to broader issues. So what I did in my statement was I said my commitment to working with youth with multi-marginalized identities is rooted in my personal journey through the Nigerian educational system. And there I connected the Nigerian educational system and the recent reform in 1999 and in the late 2010s to the American educational system and the progress from 1848 down to 2015 through the foundations of schooling. So leverage what you know about your field, leverage what you know about your context, and feel free to compare it. So what worked well there was a personal connection. And the strategy there, like I said, was to link my personal background to my motivation. Why you? Why should it be you who they would accept? Why should it be you who should be telling these stories? The impact there is that it provides depth and context to your commitment. It kind of colors who you are a little bit. They may not see your pictures. In fact, some people don't want to see your name for Harvard. They are sure to take your name out during the review process so that any bias of the statement reader is taken out. Now we can have a longer conversation on if that works, but that's something that some schools do. And you want to just create an image in this person's mind about your commitment, about who you are, about your knowledge in the field, like I said earlier. Yeah, and I also gave an historical context, like I mentioned, like the foundations of schooling, and I referenced systemic issues within the Nigerian educational system. And I was very clear throughout about my passion for change. I was extremely clear about my desire to address systemic shortcomings and okay, my slides. Okay. And to show alignment with the values of the program. So how do you show alignment with the values of the program? One, you read the faculty bio on the website of the school you want to apply to. It will also help to read the mission statement of the program and to look at the former dissertations or master's thesis or kind of jobs that these people go on to do. It will reflect the what the program values. So I'll give you an example. I could have applied to Cornell University's School of Education. They do fantastic work in the New York, New Jersey area, but it did not fit into my goals and my understanding and construction for change and what I need for educational linguistics in relation to immigration. So it's not just about the school. The ranking is important. I only applied to top 10 schools. It's not just about the school. It's also extremely important to find the fit because that's what they're going to be looking for as well. I also established my credibility using my academic background. So I talked about how my academic expertise spans through, well, what we've heard multiple times during this conversation, but I was very clear about where I've been and what I've done, and I've never been a full-time teacher, but I've been a student and I care about education. What are the things that worked well there? So it showed that many people who go into PhD programs or master's programs may not have had masters before or may not have gone to the University of Ilorin or are not Nigerian. I am the only Nigerian in my program, so that does stand me out, right? Your diversity is your strength. So the strategy there was to show a robust educational history and to establish credibility and my qualifications. I also mentioned some relevant coursework that I think would be important. And this helps with time specific studies related to my focus. And it also shows that you are a motivated individual who can look for opportunities on campus and can take classes that interest you and that you have a real investment into your educational journey. And I also connected it to my current studies. So what are the ways that the things that I've done thus far connect to my growing, evolving, emerging interests? Um, I also mentioned my research aspirations. Now, this might vary if you are a person who wants to do a Juris doctorate, or that's a law degree, or a person who wants an MBA. You might not need to show research aspirations, I don't think, because it's more professional. You have to show your passion, but not really what you want to research unless that's something that's peculiar to you. But for a PhD and for the kind of masters I applied for, it was important that I showed that I had research aspirations for my career, and I highlighted my future goals. So I wrote about the faculty members that I wanted to work with. I named them. I said I am drawn to the prospect of conducting research under the mentorship of Dr. April Baker-Bell, who is now my primary advisor, and Dr. John Wargo, who is now my secondary advisor. And the things that worked well was I looked across over 50 faculty members that the University of Michigan School of Education have, and I identified only faculty members that I think aligned with my goals. And the impact shows informed interest and preparation. Again, the alignment of interest is important because these faculty members also have multiple people who want to work with them across the world. So why me? Why now? Why this program? Why them? Why are they the best mentor to help me in the construction of my professional identity, but also in my scholarship? Dr. April Baker-Bell wrote a book called Linguistic Justice. It looks at systemic inequities within educational linguistics, and Dr. John Wago does work related to critical literacy. I also defined my clear research questions. How does my experience that I stated in my very first paragraph tie to my experience as a person who was a student in Nigeria and a student in the United States, tie to what I want to do in the future? And how does my passion bleed into my research interests? And the last paragraph is to talk about your vision for the future. None of us wants to go to school to not get a job or to not, be professionals. So I said my goal is to become a tenured university professor dedicated to nurturing research partnerships between universities and communities. Something I will highlight here is I could have said my goal is to become a professor. That's different from saying my goal is to become a tenured university professor, because a university professor with tenure at an R1, a Research 1 university, is different from an adjunct professor who works sometimes, or a clinical professor who focuses on teaching. I'm interested primarily in teaching and research, and not just research for scholars alone, but to communicate with people who are in the communities and to create a bridge between universities and communities that they serve. So that shows long-term vision. And one thing I will say is prestigious universities, or universities in general, do not want to admit someone who they think won't do anything with this degree, won't fly the flag of their university high. That's one good thing that an admission committee member mentioned to me yesterday when I was talking about this. And I also showed my commitment to community engagement, not only because I've been a part of a community, or I am a part of a community and I'm interested in doing community-based work, but that I want to continue to connect the academia with the community, which is new. Public Faith Scholarship is one of the many avenues that I do my work. And I also showed an increased commitment to change. Oh my God, okay. So I've given you a lot of information and giving you strategies and impacts and what it looks like to break a statement of purpose into 5 parts and all of those good things that you can find on Google. But I want to invite you to think about what it means to write, draft, and revise your statement. So I wrote about 4 drafts of my statement before I actually turned the final one in. I asked colleagues who were already PhD students when I was a master's student. I asked other master's students. I asked my mom and my brother and my dad, and I read it to them multiple times. And I read it to my friends, and I told people what I was thinking and how I was connecting my ideas. And I had a bunch of ideas and a bunch of experiences that I thought I would be able to write on. But I saved those for my mission statement, in this case for a PhD. I saved those for my personal statement. The statement of purpose is a declaration of your academic interest. So it's important to do deep initial brainstorming to gather ideas and experiences and motivations and goals, and to consider how these key themes reflect on your academic journey. I created an outline, so introduction, academic background, relevant experiences, future goals, and conclusion, very similar to what I just showed you. I wrote a first, second, third, fourth, fifth draft, and I revised. So not only did I revise for structure, I also revised for grammar. I looked through clarity and coherence and flow, and does this paragraph speak to this paragraph? In my initial draft, I had put my experience as a Nigerian student first, but I was like, well, that doesn't bleed well into my research interests, so I switched the flow of the paragraphs, and that really helped. Like I said, seek input from mentors, contact Careergrill, use constructive criticism to strengthen your statement, and up until the very last second, on like February 18th, when I turned in the one for the University of Michigan Masters, and this November 30th, when I turned in the one for the PhD, I was revising for grammar. I was looking through my commas. You don't know what's going to put off the admission committee. So I was looking through Did I repeat a sentence twice? Can I work on my flow? What are the things I can do? And be sure to adhere to the specific guidelines. So all the 6 schools I applied to asked for 1,000 words for the statement of purpose and 500 words for the personal statement. Um, Not more than 1,000. For the University of Michigan statement that I wrote, I turned in 999 words, including scholarly references that I included. So be sure, have your word count on and pay close attention to that. Some common pitfalls is sometimes the statements lack focus. So you have just 1,000 words, not a lot of words. You can't wander off topic or include what I consider irrelevant information. Be sure that every single sentence serves the purpose of telling them more about who you are and more about what you can do and what value you bring to the table. Yeah, I also would say that having a passive voice might work against you. Oh, someone asked what the difference is between the statement of purpose and personal statement. That's a great question, and I'll answer that really quickly. Well, in the United States, the difference between, because I know that's different across Australia and the United Kingdom, the statement of purpose is an academic declaration of intentions. Um what is your academic history, while your personal statement is saying more about who you are as a person for the purpose of diversity for your program. So to give you an example, for my statement, I wrote and I showed you the things that I wrote, talked about research, talked about my academic backgrounds. But for my statement, I wrote about, I grew up in Tanke Okyodo in Ilorin. So I wrote about Tanke Okyodo, and I went to Flora schools in Ilorin, Kwara State. And I wrote about Flora schools. And yeah, and I wrote about that. And I talked a lot about living in Okyodo and going to University of Ilorin, and then going to Flora. And what does that mean to go to Flora? And what does that mean to be a multilingual individual who speaks Yoruba and who, you know, yeah, thank you, Maria, who speaks Yoruba and who speaks English and writes in English and reads in English and Yoruba. So that was where I displayed some of my personal linguistic strengths. I'll answer that at the end, as Maria suggested, but there could be a difference, but I'll answer that at the end. Do not over generalize. Don't make broad statements without specific examples. One of the things that one of my mentors mentioned to me when I was writing my first statement for the University of Michigan was, don't say that the educational system is going to hell in a handbasket without evidence. Before you make any generalized comment, give evidence. What about you? What about your experience makes you think this way? That's important. Because you are writing for scholars. These people who will be reviewing, these people on the student affairs team, the other students who will be reviewing your work, the professors are all scholars in the field and read up on the field and know a lot about the field. So before you make any sweeping generalizations, be clear about why you think so. And don't neglect your personal growth, right? We all have challenges, and don't shy away from that. So if you don't do as well in your GRE or your whatever exams that you need, or your IELTS or your TOEFL, say that. I'm not a great test taker, but that doesn't negate me, doesn't count me out. I have challenges, and this is how my challenges have shaped me. I'm from Nigeria, like I said. I lived in Ilorin. This is how my Ilorin-ness has shaped me and makes me valuable to be a part of the cohort. Again, I can't stress it enough. Do not be disorganized. Pay attention to your structure, and do not go over the writing limit. If you're going to take one thing, it is a big pet peeve in the academic community to go over by 150 words, in fact 10 words over what has been stipulated. Because while we think that writing a lot shows our strength, actual coherent writing shows that you have a strength as a writer and you can communicate using few words. I'm going to take a break now, and I'm going to invite you, you've heard me say a lot of things and I'm giving you a lot of tips. I want to invite you to draft a 30-second elevator pitch. So some of you are already thinking about, like we spoke about earlier, schools that you want to go to, programs that you're interested in. I invite you to draft a 30-second elevator pitch focusing on your background and reasons for applying and what your future goals are. So this 30-second pitch would be a miniature brainstorming first draft for what would or might eventually become your statement. So I'll turn off my video and mic, and I'll be back in about 3 minutes. And feel free to please share them in the chat. All right, please, you can drop your responses in the chat or you can keep them to yourself. But can I get a thumbs up if people are done with the activity? Okay, we have enough time. I can give another 2 to 3 minutes. As soon as you're done, please put a thumbs up in the chat. Thank you. All right. Let's see. So Wasil says a graduate in history and international studies with sole aim of finding facts and how they shape the current situation of the country, aiming to be a scholar whose interests in research can find solutions to the colonial fallacies about Africa. That's not only fantastic, it's also timely. So it's extremely timely with the current social, political, hegemonic conversations that are happening across the world. And if you, I don't know what country you want to apply to or what school, if you can tie it into the kind of work they're doing and the kind of the ways that they're thinking about post-colonialism and decolonialism of histories and rhetoric and realities, that would be interesting. So thanks for sharing. Praise God says, neuroscience research in low income countries is often underfunded and underrepresented, despite the raiding prevalence of neurological disorders like stroke, epilepsy, and neurodegenerative diseases. This increasing health issues further worsens the understanding of the brain's complex functions and the development of effective treatment. This passing gap in knowledge and care has fueled my desire to contribute to the field of neuroscience. That's amazing. That's really great, and that's important work. I don't know much about neuroscience, so that sounds really cool, but I can imagine that's important work now. So the important thing to do there that I'm noticing is to connect that to the kind of work you've done in the past. Do you have any personal connections to that? Is it from your undergrad program or your master's program, or do you have conversations surrounding this? What are the prevalent conversations that are happening in Nigeria and in the school that you're going to? Are these the ways that they're thinking about neuroscience research? Are they thinking about this in a critical way? These are the things that you would want to look for. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh my God, it was a great like elevator pitch. That's amazing. So I'm going to give you a quick summary of all we've talked about. So SOP, S for showcase yourself. Think about it as a personal introduction. I'll read one more. I think I have time. A graduate of history and international studies with a focus on environmental history, economic history, and gender. It's a beautiful intersection. So you may want to think about the intersections that exist there and who are those that exist on the fringes when you're thinking about your work. Are you thinking about a more theoretical and philosophical lens or a more personal, on the ground lens? That would be important. I don't know much about this, but that's what I can deduce. I'll read one last one. I have a vibrant personality that takes a toll on me, but still give it my all. Growing up with a strong background of what the value of education brings has made me a big dreamer of learning and growing. I envision a system where education is widely encouraged, especially in the engineering community. I have news for you, Abiola. The University of Michigan has a fantastic engineering education program that bridges interest between engineering and education, where you can explore your thoughts. So I have a mentor who is an engineering education faculty member, and she looks at mentorship and she looks at freedom, dreaming, and liberation in those two fields. So that's beautiful. The only thing I would add is, again, what are your qualifications? Why engineering specifically? Why education? Those are the questions that they would ask you. Why do you want a degree? Why not just, I don't know, write about it and be a journalist? Why a university degree? Um, so yeah, thank you for sharing. But yeah, showcase yourself. Think of the statement as your personal introduction, as your King of Boys movie trailer. Go beyond your GPA and your transcripts, and reveal your unique strengths, experiences, and passions. This is where the personal statement and the statement of purpose question comes in. So your statement of purpose is to show us in any way. People are very interested in the way that they write, right? They write in many different ways, very narrative, flowery ways. I'm more clinical in the way I approach writing, but that's fine. There's space for that, as long as you are highlighting your academic prowess. Now, there would be space to highlight your okayo-ness of your application, and that's in your personal statement where you can tell your story. I also told a story about how in my primary school we weren't allowed to speak Yoruba, right? And I got lashed. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. That happened to me, and but that also bleeds into my love for multicultural and multilingual learning experiences, and shattering the borders and opening the borders and thinking about migration. I made those connections, but in my personal statement, I ended my personal statement by saying, this is why I think it will be important for me to come to your school because of who I am. But for my statement, I was like, this is why I think it's better for me to come to your school because of my training and my expertise. That's usually the difference. So also be sure to outline your goals for your statement of purpose, communicate your long-term academic and career goals. Admissions committees want to know why you are pursuing graduate school and where it will take you. Like I said, they don't want to take you if they think that you will not use the degree. So be very honest. I want a degree in engineering education because I want to be a professor. I want a degree in engineering education because I want to contribute to literature. I want to be a research assistant. I want to be a research specialist. So to be creative in the way and be truthful in the way that you're thinking about things. And personalized for fit. So there are many schools, and schools are great and they're amazing, but and Harvard is great and sounds great. I didn't go to Harvard, but sounds great. University of Michigan sounds fantastic, but that's not all. You need to think about, does this school fit what I need? The Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, was the perfect program for me as a newcomer in the United States, thinking about linguistics and English language learning as a field. They groomed me, they helped me think about these things much more deeply. So you have to think about that. Like, what's your fit? Is it that you don't want to live in New York and go to Columbia? You want to live in a more rural area? Those are the things that you have to consistently think about. So show why the school's unique resources, faculty, and community are the perfect fit for your journey. So not just what the faculty is doing and what the school is doing, but are there like research opportunities that you would like to be a part of? Include that in your statement. And I just gave like a long summary of all the things we talked about. So be sure to read in between the lines. They're looking for self-motivation, competence, and your potential. Frame your perspective positively, or if it's not so positive, frame it in a way that's useful. Many people have misconceptions that you can just trauma dump, maybe for undergrad, but now you guys are professionals and scholars in the field and thought drivers. So it's important for you to frame it in a way that conveys to the reader that what you're saying is important and useful. Show, don't tell. So use evidence, like we mentioned earlier. Acknowledge your challenges, regardless of what those challenges are. Ensure that you have continuity and focus, and be concise. Be concise. If it says 1,000 words, write 1,000 words, and follow Times New Roman 12 or Arial 12 or whatever they say. So be very concise. The best way to do that is copy directly from the school's page, put it on your document, Microsoft Word, Google Docs, whatever paper, and follow exactly what they've said. If they're asking specific questions, use those words. If you have a faculty you like and they use the word, I don't know, equity a lot, use equity in your paper, in your statement. And I have a bunch of resources here. Again, many thanks to my very good friend Luana, who came from the City College in New York. She shared with me an important resource for this Institute for the Recruitment of Teachers. If you're interested, I think you can look up IRT. They're really great. And I wasn't a part of IRT, but I know it's been really successful for certain people. And they help you with crafting a great application, and one that stands out and that's proven extremely successful. So they think about general writing tools, how to construct your resume and CVs. I know that this is a statement of purpose conversation, but I think this would be important to know. Again, there are drafts of what a template looks like, and for different things too. So I've tried to find like social sciences and humanities. And as a humanities girl who is now in education, sometimes the standards of writing differ. And then, yeah, what does it mean to apply for a PhD versus a master's? Or if a school is asking for a diversity statement, that's not as popular, but it does happen. I've added what such statement could look like. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I would answer them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much. I personally have learned and I have been taking down questions as well. Thank you once again. Some of the questions while you were talking, please, if you have questions, you can use the question and answer tag. Just drop in your questions there and she would answer them immediately. Okay, somebody dropped one already. Anonymous is saying, should there be a connection between both? Please, could you clarify that question, Mr. Anonymous? Are you
I think
saying
I think they're asking about the statement and the uh,
statement?
personal statement. So I think I already answered that. There should be a connection. The statement of purpose should be your academic expertise, and your personal statement should be about your journey and what that means for your study.
All right, thank you very much. Please, further questions should be directed to the question and answer section on the call. So while you were talking, I wrote something that you said you applied to 6 schools. So I'm asking, is it for masters or for PhD?
That's a great question. I applied when I was applying to the masters for the Southern Illinois University. I applied to 2 schools: University of Louisiana Lafayette and Southern Illinois University. I went to SIU because they gave me money. They gave me funding. That's why I went. So you can be as vain as you want. But for my first masters for my masters at the University of Michigan, I applied to 3 schools. I applied to Harvard, University of 4 schools: Harvard, University of Kansas, and SIU, and Michigan. I got accepted into all of those programs, chose Michigan, went to Michigan. So, and then for the
You got
PhD,
accepted into all of like the programs you applied for.
for the masters, I didn't get accepted into the University of Louisiana Lafayette my first time around, but that's fine. I don't want to go there.
I don't think
But yeah.
the bio really described your success that much because for you to have gotten into all of the schools you applied for, that's a whole lot.
Well, yeah, and the statement is the first thing they read before they read your CV and before they read your resume. So you have to craft a statement. You have to spend time with your statement. You have to make sure your statement is speaking for you when your face can't. We all have great intentions. From what the chat says, you have amazing thoughts and feelings and ideas for scholarship, but your statement has to speak for you, because that's the
Yeah.
first thing they're going to read.
All right. Please, the questions can be directed to the question and answer session. So I have another question personally. So sorry I'm asking so much questions, everyone. So I just graduated and my school, I don't think certificates and transcripts is ready yet because it's not been up to 2 months since we graduated, and obviously it's Nigeria and that would not be ready yet. So as much as I want to start applying for scholarship, two of the major things needed are my transcripts and my certificates. So what do I do? Do I just wait for like next year to start applying? So what can I do?
You contact the program manager and tell them exactly what you just told me. um yeah, like when it comes to your transcript, it's out of your control. Don't wait for the next year, try now. If there's there's usually, like, I don't know if you usually, like, contacts, right? So be sure to contact them. Hey, like, I graduated, this is the things, this is my course form or whatever. It's just not ready yet. And then they can tell you if that works for them or not, but always try before you count yourself out.
All
That's like
right.
a thing.
Thank you very much. I'll go to the questions now because we have quite some questions here. I guess everyone is not using the um question and answer, but we'll just take them here. I'll read them out. So Akiremi is asking, in a case where your undergraduate program is quite different from your intended postgraduate program, example, Arabic and International Affairs, how do you do the background part?
You just, in many ways, I think, so I'm going to give an example because I love examples. In my cohort, we have someone who has a master's in mathematics and went to University of Pennsylvania and has a bachelor's in statistics, I think, Mike, statistics. And now he's doing his PhD in educational studies. And in the field of education, that might seem like it connects, or even like linguistics and education, that might seem like it connects, but not really, especially when it comes to like scholarship and implementation of these fields. So just saying, I have a degree in Arabic, and asking yourself, what is the biggest thing I want to know? Why do I want to bridge these two things together? Why am I interested in international affairs and Arabic? What about Arabic speaks to international affairs for me? To me, it seems pretty clear from where I'm standing, if you're looking at it from a socio-political, globalization, westernization perspective. But, you have to inquire that for yourself and then say that. Because again, that adds to your diversity. So if you're in a space where there are only diplomats or international affairs specialists, you have an added advantage. You have an interdisciplinary added advantage that you should leverage. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next question. Wasu is asking, would you advise that one has more than one SOP slash personal statement for each school? And are there specific number?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. I was hoping to talk about that. The rule of thumb is to write a generic one that you can adapt. So I, like I said, applied to 6 schools for my PhD, but I had like a base template that I adapted. So when I was applying to Stanford, the program was race, inequality, and language in education. For Harvard, it's culture, institutions, and society. Harvard has a more philosophical take on things. Stanford has a more personal take on things. Michigan bridges both. That's why I came here. But I wrote the same thing, but when it came to the paragraph about faculty I wanted to work for, my research questions, that was where I started tweaking things. One thing I also added to my statement was a reference page. So I referenced, and I went on Google Scholar or ProQuest or whatever, and read 2 or 3 papers that relates to the work of the faculty. That stands you out. Most people don't do that. And I just kind of, referenced it APA 7th style. But yeah, most people will tell you write a new one for each one. I dare to say that if you have a clear and through line of thought and you have chosen like your school very, very intentionally, that you would succeed, and you can just like write a generic template. Now, the only thing to be aware of though is to not write, Oluwaseun Oyindamola is a faculty member at Stanford when Oluwaseun is a faculty member at Harvard. They're going to toss your statement out. So you have to keep them separate and you have to proofread and keep checking. Yeah, but as long as you have a very clear line of thoughts and you are sure about the fit. So don't be like me and apply to 6 schools and go through decision paralysis when it was time to make a decision. Just apply to the ones you want. Because I was scared. But yeah, just be sure to, again, back to the Arabic and international affairs question, ask a clear question that shows your strength and your disciplinary strength specifically in relation to your statement. But if there's a certain program, let's say you're applying to anthropology for 5 schools, but for this specific school you want to apply to philosophy, then you might need to write a different statement because those are 2 different programs, even if you want to use elements of both. Again, I hope that answers your question.
All right, I'm moving on to the next question. Osawe is asking, is getting a full funding possible, including traveling?
Getting a full funding scholarship is possible. The best way to find that is to check the student body. So for University of Michigan did not offer me funding for my master's, but I did find funding on campus. So they did not offer me funding, but the Southern Illinois University offered me funding both times I got in because they have an amazing and vast and huge international student body. I had three of my very good friends now who are Nigerian were in my class at SIU. So you want to look at, are international students going to these schools? Are they giving them opportunities to learn and for funding? Or do you prioritize ranking and want to go to a school like Michigan or Harvard or Stanford for your master's and hope that you find funding on campus? Again, don't be like me. That's what I did. I did find funding, but it was a little hard and created some anxiety. So making decisions about ranking and school. And sometimes schools have like endowment. So always send an email, a cold email to your program, to the program management of whatever program you're applying to, because they'll be able to tell you, well, we don't usually fund international students. That, no, that's the no-go area if that's important to you. Or sometimes we do, and then you can make your decision based on that. I think a big thing that I will mention concerning if you're thinking about a PhD program is, do not go to a school where they do not offer you full tuition coverage and funding. It is more popular to find schools that do offer that, so that's not going to streamline your search, but be sure that they offer that. um yeah, that's what I'll say about that.
All right, thank you. I think this one is specifically for Mr. Sunny and other members of Careergrill. So this person is asking, can we get link to the recording same way we got the feedback email? I think the link to the last recording was shared, but if you didn't get it, we'll ensure to make sure that you get it. And I think Mr. Sunny will address that later. Moving on to another question. Adam Zuleha is asking, sorry, I hope I pronounced your name well, is asking, for someone that studied chemistry education, I'm finding it difficult to switch to the real science and pick a research area for my MSc because of lack of confidence. What would you advise?
I would definitely want to know more about what's causing that lack of confidence first, because you studied chemistry education. I already say you're overqualified and you are uniquely positioned to do work in real science. I can understand though why that must seem intimidating, but you already have a very unique perspective on what it means to, in my opinion, or from what I know about chemistry education, teach chemistry or understand chemistry teaching. And to teach is to know, right? So you already have a very good um angle there. Ways that I would think about enhancing the application would be for you to read what's the latest in the field, and that would definitely boost your confidence. So have you gone through latest research articles that have been published in the last 10 years? You don't have to read every single one, but what are the topics that they're talking about? What are the methods that they're using? That would be important to include in your statement. So that always gives me some assurance, because I've never been an education student. I'm always like a humanities linguistics girl. It was really hard for me to make my case that I wanted to do a double master's in linguistics and teaching English as well as other languages. Why do you want to teach language if you already understand linguistics and syntax and semantics and things like that? So I went into looking through, Google Scholar, ProQuest, and all of Google Scholar is free. I don't know if ProQuest is, but looking through, you know, what are the latest additions to the field, and does anything pique my interest? Is this what I want to be doing? Those are the questions I asked myself. But yeah, I like to tell people, you have no reason to fear. You're already enough. You're already great. You already have a wealth of experience. That's loud. Um, and yeah, and I think the admissions committee definitely recognized that.
All right, thank you very much. So please, the feedback form would be dropped. The link to the feedback form will be dropped here for everyone before the call ends. Please, for those who joined us last time, you know how we do it. Please, we're begging you, fill the feedback form before you exit the call. Before we end the session, please fill the form. The link will be dropped right now. Thank you. So, Hope Bodunwa is asking that Do you think someone who has low GPA stands a chance? She said she studied linguistics for her degree, but wants to study international relations. I think if you don't mind dropping the GPA, probably a 2-2 is what she's talking about. So,
If you have a 2-2, you definitely stand a chance if you want to make the bridge from linguistics to international relations. I think that's a simple answer. Um, and something that I will buttress is my point on acknowledging your challenges. So I know it's very easy for us to look at ourselves as, oh, my experience in Lagos or my experience in Ibadan is just that. Like it's not important. But everything you're saying is new. Everything you're saying is interesting. Everything you're saying impacts the ways that admission committees will read you. So do not first do not count yourself out. But secondly, mention that you think you have a lower GPA, mention why, and mention that, you know, that's your experience. And these are the things that you have done, or these are the ways that you're thinking about your educational trajectory that would um help with them including you in their cohort. So acknowledge your challenges, own your challenges, because that's what makes you who you are. But realistically also highlight the things that you have done and the ways that you have thought about it and the things that have led to those challenges. And will that happen again? It's the big question they'll be asking you. If you had this grade, are you going to succeed now if we let you in? You have to prove them wrong.
all right. Um, I'm now in the question and answer session. Anonymous is asking for schools. His questions are they're quite a lot. I'll take them one after the other. It says, for schools in the US, do you need to write GRE or there are schools that don't require it? That's the first question. Second question is, what's the possibility of getting a PhD scholarship without having a published research work?
I
Third
love that
question,
question. That's a good question.
would third question, can one get a scholarship for a master's program even if you already have a master's degree in Nigeria?
Okay, so I forgot the first one, but the second one about, oh, I know there's a question about GRE, right? I took the GRE when I was applying. I did not need it, but I took it. And sometimes, if you have like a lower GPA and you do very well in your GRE, please include it. Or you do extremely well in your TOEFL or IELTS, then it helps your application. But if you think you're fine, and for my PhD, I was actually very especially for the field of education. I'm sure like for natural or pure sciences that I don't know what the practice is there, but for humanities and social sciences, it's becoming less and less popular to require the GRE. I wanted to apply to Vanderbilt University, and they required the GRE, and I said no, I'm not gonna take it. I just didn't, and I didn't apply there, and that's okay. So yeah, after COVID and with the advent of more equitable educational practices, more schools are taking out the GRE. Harvard, up until either the last cycle that I applied for or the one before that, required the GRE, but they no longer do. So you want to look at the programs, and if the GRE, if you think it's going to help your application, please take it, and please put your all in it and pass it. But if you think, well, there's no need for this, then don't. Yeah, I think that's, you asked the question about scholarship. If you have a master's, yes. Again, be sure to look for schools that have context cues in their on their websites about their international student body and their funding for international students. Do not be scared to cold send someone emails about your questions and about your thoughts. But yeah, if you have a master's in Nigeria, and forgive me if I misunderstand the question, but if you have a master's in Nigeria, you can definitely get a master's in the United States with funding. And like I said, if they don't offer you funding and you really want to go, like Harvard, when you get there, you can find on campus funding, but that's another conversation.
All right, I'm moving to his last question. He said, sorry if you're a lady. I don't know, but I'm just using that generally. It says, I would like to apply for MSc, but my undergrad was not all that great, so I do not have a strong academic background, like a journal or the rest. But I have work experience in my field, and can I leverage on that?
You should leverage on that. I had manuscript in preparation when I was applying to PhDs and other masters, but I never actually published until recently. So um yeah, I again, don't count yourself out. Your work experience, your life experience, and the way you are thinking about things definitely impacts it. In my current cohort, we have people who are in their 40s and their 50s who have worked all their lives. They've had like a master's degree in, let's say, Ecuador or in Canada, and now are at the University of Michigan, and have only worked maybe in educational architecture, or some people worked as teachers, never published anything, in fact struggle with academic writing, but they really really leveraged how they're identifying problems at their place of work and what that means for educational research. That's what you need to start thinking about.
All right, thank you very much. The link to the feedback form has been dropped. Please fill the feedback form. As you're getting value from us, we need to get your feedback as well. So please fill the feedback form. Fatima Ibrahim, the question is not clear. Is what applicable in the UK as well, or just the US? Please kindly clarify the question. Chisom is asking, can a fully funded scholarship cover accommodation?
Not traditionally. So they give you and I can't speak for every single school. For schools I know in the United States, because that's the context I'm familiar with, they if they offer you funding, they say, oh, we're offering you Chisom $700 monthly or bi-weekly for you to gain experience in apprenticeship or teaching experience with this certain class or certain professor or lab. And yeah, and they cover all your tuition fees, and they give you a take-home stipend that covers your living expenses. So you find accommodation and you've paid your utilities by yourself, but they do pay you for that. And it's the same if the school doesn't offer it upfront, and you think, what if I go there? Maybe I know someone there, or this is a little more risky. Don't be like me, but if I go there, I can find something on campus, or I can go to the career. For University of Michigan, it's careers.umich.edu, but most of for Kansas is the careers.kansas.edu as well. To find opportunities, you can email professors about funding opportunities. Some of them have NSF grants that they may be willing to hire you. So yeah, and when that happens, they cover your tuition. You're either a graduate student instructor, a teaching assistant, or research assistant, and they give you like a take-home stipend.
All right, thank you. Baraka is asking, apart from a good SOP, what other things do you think affects your chances of being given a fully funded scholarship?
You have to fill a form. So they ask you, do you have money? Can you afford it? And usually they just say no, I can't. um but yeah, so you also have to bring some value to the table. And there, I think for Stanford and SIU, there might be a separate opportunity. So for Stanford is the Kennedy's Fellowship, and for SIU it was more of a teaching assistantship thing that you feel secondary to your primary application, where you say, I really, really need this. I might have a sponsor, or I might be sponsoring myself, or the government might be sponsoring me, but I would really appreciate not just this money, but that this teaching assistantship would help me build the knowledge of the field or whatever. So yeah, those are some of the things that might help. Showing that you've worked, showing that you are able to work, and that there is need for it.
All right, thank you very much. Praise is asking, can I cite mental health as a specific area of interest when applying for masters in public health or just clinical psychology?
Both. Highly encourage that you do that for either. I worked as a student staff assistant at the University of Michigan at the School of Public Health, and I had a professor called Dr. Enrique, and he did a lot of work with youth in downtown Detroit, Michigan. around youth mental health from a participatory action research lens. So yes, there is space. In fact, highly encourage you to think about ways that you can bridge um, your interest in mental health. Now, is it mental health therapy? Then you may want to think about social work and clinical psychology, or mental health practices. Think about the public health space and public policy space in public health, or foundational perspectives of mental health, clinical psychology, and public health. So think about like what the schools offer, and yes, in a simple way, the answer is yes.
All right, thank you. Halima is asking, please can you reshare, can you re-explain the getting a PhD scholarship without published research work? She's very curious and she's a bit confused.
So yeah, that's a good question. I never, got like a published. I never published, like I said, until recently, but I had like ideas and manuscripts, and I had initiated, conversations with my colleagues and with the professor about the writing a paper, and the paper was about looking at phenotypic racial experiences of immigrant youth, especially when it comes to racial salience. But I didn't publish it. In fact, I don't even think they cared that I had that, because it's manuscript in preparation, so that's not a lot of detail or what the manuscript is about. I could have just had like a line down and that's in preparation, or I could have I could have the whole paper and I'm currently revising it. So even in my Harvard interview, they didn't even ask me about publication. Like I said, there are multiple people who come from the workforce into a PhD, or come from the workforce into a master's, who have never published in their lives and have never actually written an academic paper. So yes, for the University of Michigan and most schools I applied to because funding was important to me, they offer you funding upfront. So they don't offer you funding for a PhD, for PhD level now. For masters, it's much more tricky. But for PhD, they offer you funding upfront. They don't say, oh, because you don't have published research, we won't give you as much money. No. Welcome to the cohort. We think you're good and we want to, contribute to your success. Here is 5 years worth of funding for this work.
All right. John is asking, for those in sciences, is it possible to get a fully funded scholarship without research experience?
The
I
answer
think
is
you've
yes.
answered that already.
But check for alignment. Um, Again, one thing I should mention, since we're out of the scope of statements of purpose, again, feel very free to email faculty members that you're interested in talking to, and form those relationships early. Especially if you're thinking about PhDs or more professional masters, just send an email. Hi, my name is Oluwaseun. I'm interested in this, and that, and I think our interests, converge in this way, and I want to talk to you for 30 minutes. Usually if they pick an interest in you, that might be a very good way to either get in, or if you go to a different university, to form that connection that would help in the future.
All right, thank you. Fatima said the question she was asking is regarding the tips on SOP that you had mentioned earlier, how it is different for other countries like the UK and Australia.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah, so there's some schools across, like maybe the United Kingdom, that don't say statement of purpose and use the term personal statement to mean statement of purpose. So you have to be very, very sure to look through the program websites to read through what they're asking you to write. Are they asking for more of a personal experience or more of academic, expertise? So that was something that confused me when I applied, when I was looking across schools. I was like, oh, why are they asking me for a personal statement and a mission statement? What about the statement of purpose? Like, why am I going to talk about my academic expertise? But then when I read the descriptions of what the program means by that, then I can, I was able to make a judgment call.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm moving on to the next question. I hopefully this is the last. Zuleha is still asking, I've not taken any internships or published a paper in any journal.
Mhm,
My undergraduate project wasn't really strong,
mhm.
and she has not worked, but she's presently teaching at NYSC. How does she make herself valuable and stand out in her application?
Um, I guess my question would be, what program are you thinking about applying to? Please remind me. Like what field?
I think, let me check if she has mentioned that already. I think she said
Oh, the
she wants
chemistry
to,
education.
I
Um,
think,
please go ahead.
I don't know if she was on that mentioned about international relations or something.
Oh, I think if it's Zuleihat Adam, I think they mentioned chemistry education to more real science. I think, if you're, I know that some programs in the sciences, again, not a scientist in that way, but some programs in the sciences have a writing sample requirement. So this is the time to start thinking about. You said your project isn't strong. Why isn't it strong? What are the things that you can do to strengthen it? Do you think the literature review can use more work? You know, factors responsible for low enrollment for students in chemistry. Okay, that might not fully lead into the natural sciences, but can you pull things from there to write a comprehensive literature review? Can you do a review of the literature when it comes to like submitting a writing sample? So you may want to think about that. Again, when it comes to making yourself valuable, use your experiences, and be honest about things that you don't know and things that you're interested in knowing. That was what I did in my PhD statement. I just said, these are the bunch of questions I have, help. And that's what happened. So be sure to include your research questions and whatever thoughts you have, and I'm sure they're great. But also think about when doing your writing sample, is there a way I can bridge my knowledge of chemistry education to chemistry? What are the things I've learned from chemistry education that can help me and inform my thoughts around chemistry? And again, a literature review is a great way to do that.
Again, she's asking, is it true that WAEC and proof of English as language of instruction from your Nigerian university can be used in place of IELTS, TOEFL? Is it all schools that require proof of English?
Yes. Um, you can use. I did not have to take IELTS or TOEFL. Well, I shouldn't say that because I already had a degree from the United States, and that's one of the exemptions. But for my first like SIU degree, I thought I had to take TOEFL. So I took TOEFL and GRE, and that helped. And I'm sure, like, if you think, oh, my English isn't strong here, or I want to just stay on top, you can take the TOEFL. When you take the TOEFL, you find that it's a little embarrassing, but I'm gonna be a nerd about linguistics and equity. But anyway, yes, there are times that because you went to a country, you went to university in a country like Nigeria, that can serve in place. Again, Careergrill in the chat has dropped a published article on cold pitching a professor or cold emailing a professor. That's a question you can ask either the program manager or the professor. But they're usually, when it comes to the application form, they put like, oh, if you go to this school, there's nothing for you to do this, and that sometimes works. It worked for Louisiana. They didn't even ask me to submit TOEFL, but I didn't get in. I don't think that matters here, but anyway, yeah. I think one, ask the program, and two, if it states clearly that if you go to a country where the medium of instruction is English, then you're good.
Mr. Anonymous, you will kill us the questions today, but we're fine. We like it. Mr. Anonymous is currently in 300 level, and I have no project yet. Do you advise I start applying or wait till I'm done with my 400 level? Because what's your take on going for PhD direct without an MSc?
Well, I think going for a PhD direct is possible. I was just, the reason I did like master's programs was because I wanted to be extremely sure of what I wanted to pursue. I wanted to go to a top program. When I applied and chose Michigan, it was the number one program along with Columbia. So I was very number one program in the world in education, and still is when it comes to education research. So I was very intentional in the way that I chose my programs. I was like, I just want to go to a top school. I want to be a professor. That's the best way I can get a job. That's what I'm going to do. But yeah, there are multiple ways that you can do that. But if you are going to do that, then you have to do extra work. It's good that you're in 300 level thinking about this. Start thinking about your GRE. Start thinking about what you want to write for your projects in relation to what that's going to mean for your research. Start thinking about the schools. Start creating a vision board for the schools. What are these schools about? What faculties would you want to work with? What are these faculties writing about? You have time. You have time to do the research and and create a spreadsheet of, do I need letters of reference, like a recommendation? Who do I want to reach out to? Who is your level advisor? I think that's what it's called. Who do you want to reach? You have time. That's all I'm going to say about that. You do definitely have time to start thinking about that. But wait till you're done with undergrad for sure.
All right. He's also asking, how much do you think the ideal fully funded scholarship should be? I mean, the least amount.
Well, that's not usually how it works for the programs that I received funding for. So they tell you, and I can share like what my letter looked like, but they said, congratulations, you've been accepted or recommended for admission at the University of Michigan or Harvard or whatever, and we've offered you a 5-year fully funded package. Right? For international students, they just say you're a dean scholar or whatever the equivalent is in the program, and you don't have to worry about your tuition, and they'll tell you, well, we'll keep you updated on a semester or a yearly, or or maybe they already have a project or whatever that you want to work on depending on your field, or you're working at your advisor's lab and the university will be paying you, so you don't even have to worry about that. Now I'll give you a quick thought about that. When I got my Harvard letter and they did not offer me summer funding, and Michigan offered me 6 years of summer funding, I was like, oh, well, this is a no-brainer. And then I went back to Harvard and I said, Michigan is offering me this amount of money, or I had funding in the summer for me to, just do my research and do some reading. Harvard was like, we don't have opportunities for funding for international students there. And I said, okay, the choice was made for me in that way. So yeah, usually they don't bother you with the amount, and if they do, then if someone's offering you 40,000 and the other person is offering you, I don't know, 50K, you can either make a decision there, and if you want to go to the one that offers you 40K, you can try to negotiate.
Thank you very much. Please, we will no longer take any more questions since you all have refused to fill the feedback form, and I think we offer so much value. And Mr. Anonymous, your questions, we might not be able to take all of them anymore. We offer so much value, and the least that we ask for is that you all fill the feedback form. We are about 40 or more on this call, and only 5 persons have filled the feedback form. So I'm going to give everyone 5 minutes. So please, we'll pause for 5 minutes. Let everyone go ahead and fill the feedback form. The responses from the feedback form will determine whether we continue today or we put an end to it. Thank you. Please, Ms. Sheung, please, let's just hold on for 5 minutes, please. Everyone, please go ahead and fill the feedback form. Thank you. The feedback form doesn't take up to 2 minutes of your time. Please, the link is already in the comment section. Please just fill it. It won't take much of your time, please. All right. We'll take one more question. The next question. Let me check the comment section. Okay, we're done with all the questions in the comment section. Let me check. We'll take just one from the question and answer session. Somebody is Anonymous is asking, can you work while doing your master's as an international student?
Yes, there are many avenues for that. So you can work as a part of like the 20-hour requirement. I'm speaking from the United States perspective. So let me just give that um disclaimer there. But yes, you know, if you get admitted and you get funding, that comes with 20 hours of work on campus. Or if you get the job on campus, that's 20 hours as an international student. If you think you need more or you want to like have an internship outside of campus, you can get your curricular practical training. That's your CPT. If you do your CPT for only like a part of your study, then it doesn't cancel out your optional practical training, your OPT that happens after your program. So complicated. But yeah, so you can work on campus for 20 hours. If you need more than 20 hours of work per week on campus, then you would need to apply for that. But yeah, if you're interested in working in the United States and utilizing your OPT, you may want to look more into the international center of the school that you get into and what their policy is regarding your CPT negating your OPT when you're done. But I hope that that's a little complicated, but that's the best I can answer it from an immigration perspective.
All right. He's also asking, how do we convert our GP from the 5 to 4 the USA uses?
Um, well, I don't know too much about that because for when I applied to the Southern Illinois University, they didn't ask me to convert. When I applied to University of Michigan, they gave every single applicant, international applicant, of course, an app, like a login and like a code to an app where you update all your grades from your 100 level to your 400 or 500 or 600 level, and the app just does it for you. So you either I don't know too much. I know that there are many applications and models out there, but that's not something I'm super familiar with because the schools I've applied to either have not asked me to do so or provide an avenue to do so if they need me to.
All right, thank you very much. That's all the questions. I don't think, please, if you still have questions, you can send them to the question and answer, or you could drop them in the in-call messages. Please, the feedback form is still very much open. Kindly fill the form, please. Please fill the feedback form. It's what we get from you that we use to prepare for the next month webinar. Thank you very much, Ms. Sheon. Please, let's just give them 5 more minutes in case anyone has any last-minute questions so they can drop them. Please fill the feedback form as we wait. Please, just 5 more minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. While we give 5 more minutes, I'd like to give some comments. And first, let me thank Oluwaseun for doing this. I am incredibly grateful. I've known Oluwaseun for about, I think, more than 8 years now. So getting her to do this, I know it's not easy to bring her on board. She's very busy. Her schedules are very tight, and I'm very familiar with that. But she had to create time to do this for us. But very grateful, Oluwaseun. I know a lot of our participants today must have learned one or two things, and I'm sure some people can now go back to their SOPs and see the gaps and say, oh, this is what I've been missing all this while. Of course, when you listen to people who have been through the process, and that's one of the benefits of this webinar, that's what we are trying to achieve. You understand where you are missing it and how you can also improve on that. So I'm very grateful to you. Thank you. Careergrill team is grateful for doing this, for taking time to do this for us. But I have a small gift for Oluwaseun. You know, she was talking about how she started from Tanke Okyodo, going to Flora School. So if you live around Tanke, you already know where Flora School is, you know where it is. But Ramat, can you get that up so you could see how that journey has looked like? So I think it should also inspire you to know that at whatever point that you are in now, there's always a pathway for you to reach your dreams, and it's very important. I see some of you have asked the questions. We are scared. You don't know whether you should apply. I know the amount of conversations that I had with Oluwaseun before she even left Nigeria at the time. We had lots of conversation, but something was clear, and I keep telling people because the first SOP that she wrote and got into SIU, I still go back to it at least once a year. Why? Because there was so much clarity in what she wanted, and that kind of clarity is what is usually missing. So yeah, we have the video. Let's see. Let's just watch it for I think about 10 seconds. You see her in Tanke, you see her in the learning, and now we're in Michigan. So thank you very much, Oluwaseun. So please, that's just a reminder. Wherever you are at this point, there's always a pathway to success, and you just have to be committed to it. You have to trust yourself and know that you can get the results that you want. So we are not just teaching you this process. We also want you to know that you can do it, regardless of the field that you're coming from. So thank you very much for joining. And remember to fill back the feedback form. Of course, it allows us to prepare for future webinars. Somebody asked about scholarships in the US. I'm happy to tell you that our next speaker is also a Unilorite, an alumni. She's finished from University of Illinois, now in Cornell University, and she'll be talking about getting scholarship opportunities in the US. So your feedback allows us to decide what comes next in this journey for you, and then we'll bring people who have gone through it and can share insights, share examples of the things they've done that has worked. Remember, for those that attended the first webinar, our speaker spoke about cold emails. Oluwaseun has spoken about it today. I know very well that our next speaker also had cold emailing because I was involved at some point and had to ask her make these changes and all of that. And now we have seen the results. She's also a PhD candidate at the moment. So these tips are incredibly important. People pay to get this, and now you have it for free. So please understand the value, and please, the best way is to take action, because I will probably be bringing you to come and speak just like Oluwaseun was done today. So thank you very much, everyone. Also, please check our website. There are a lot of resources there to help you. We have examples, we have articles that we have published. You can go through it. And in fact, this session, we're going to be publishing an article on this based on the insight that Oluwaseun has shared. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. And Oluwaseun, we're very grateful. Thank you very much for doing this for us.
Thank you. And thanks for the video. That was so nice.
Over to you, Maria.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Oluwaseun. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Next month's series is still there. Don't forget to join us next month as well. The link will be out for you to register again. Join us from time to time because there is always value to be shared. I remain your host, Maria. See you all next month.